Block 1 and 2 of training camp are in the books. There's a lot of battles heating up, but also some cool things to go over, some developments as players continue to make their mark. Others are settling in while others are struggling to get it done. We're going to be talking about all that and more in this episode of 49ers Cutback.
From the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Training battles are heating up. At training camp, things just continue to develop. You get opportunities because of injuries, or you develop your own opportunities. And every year prior to training camp, I talk about battles. And a lot of times those battles are won very easily. But in some cases, they really heat up and develop into battles that are going to come down to the wire. And that's what's happening for the 49ers this year. Young players are pushing other players, and you've got veterans that are in there making an impact as well. Some guys came out of nowhere. So as we go through and we talk about blocks 1 and 2 and the process of the 49ers going through the stages of camp, the install portions, and just working their way through non-pads, into pads, you get a clear trajectory for some players. Some players are meeting expectations. Some players are exactly where they're supposed to be in their process of getting ready for the regular season. That's the most important thing, is the players getting ready for the regular season. For half of the roster, they're pretty much locks. And of course, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and the coaching staff, they don't say, hey, you're a lock. But these players are incumbents. They've been with this team for a while, and they don't really have anyone that's a legit opposition to them being a starter for this football team. So for them, it's all about gearing up, getting yourself in the prime condition, reacclimating to Kyle Shanahan's offense or Nick Sorensen's defense, and figuring out exactly where you need your body to be when you get to September and you got to play against the New York Jets. But for a big portion of the roster, they're looking at it from a different point of view. Yes, they still have to get themselves ready. They still have to learn the offense and defense and make sure they're acclimated. But they've got the added pressure of, I need to make the 53-man roster. And for those guys, training battles are significant. For some, it could develop into a starting job, but for others, just the opportunity to be on an active roster on week 1. For some of them, maybe they're battling so that way they can make it onto a practice squad to continue their dream and have the potential to be elevated during the season for the 49ers, to be with an NFL club and earn the money and earn what they're trying to do as this being their way of life. So it's an interesting dynamic. There's a lot of things that play into it. For some players, it's just getting ready. For others, they're playing literally for their livelihood. And that's exactly what you see in some of the effort. And as you get into pads, things heat up. And as you get closer and closer to the preseason being over, these guys give everything they possibly can to prove that they belong on this roster. So we're going to go through some of the battles. We're going to talk about how a lot of these players have been performing so far, if there's any surprises, guys being status quo, and kind of how things look right now. Has the depth chart changed a little bit? We're going to talk about all of that. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online, the game starts here. And one thing that we've noticed is that every single year, there are questions surrounding the 49ers running back room. And it used to be who's going to start. You had different years that different guys were supposed to be featured backs. And since 2019, I feel like it's really picked up. That year, you had Raheem Mostert come on the scene during the season and make an impact. And then after that, he just kept getting hurt. And so you had different changes. Elijah Mitchell coming in 2021 and taking over that role. Then in 2022, you reach out and you trade for Christian McCaffrey. Now he's the guy. But we've had a battle brewing over the last few seasons between Elijah Mitchell, who at one time was the San Francisco 49ers starter, to a guy that's been running back too, and now Jordan Mason is in the mix. And people that have seen Jordan Mason since he was an undrafted free agent, a lot of people really loved him as soon as he came out of college. He came out of Georgia Tech, and he's a very big running back. He reminds a lot of people of Marshawn Lynch. I think his running style is very cool. He's very powerful. He's got pretty good vision. He's gotten his eyes up more since his rookie season, which means he's a guy that's more elusive. And so I think he's a very fine back when he's running the football. But people have been wondering, why haven't we seen more of Jordan Mason? And of course, Kyle Shanahan hasn't talked a whole lot about it, but we've seen bits and pieces here and there. Coach Bobby Turner, Coach Chris Foerster through the years. You're finding out that they had added elements to Jordan Mason's game that he needed to elevate. Part of the reason that Elijah Mitchell has been running back too was the 49ers felt comfortable with him in that role. They knew that he could execute everything they needed him to execute. He was a complete back. Plays 1 through 3, he can handle them. You want to run play action pass, he's going to give you a good fake. You want him to run the outside zone, he can do that. You need him to pick up a linebacker on a blitz at a pass set, he can handle that. You want to line him up in the slot and he can go off for a pass, he could do that as well at a pretty high level. Now, it's not the Christian McCaffrey level, but let's be honest, nobody is. It's a different type of level. But Jordan Mason had a few elements within his game that were just lacking a little bit. Not for lack of trying, or just the fact that he wasn't good at them yet. And he's been working to get better and better. And you've seen him be more dynamic in the pass game as time goes on. Last year, he had a couple Texas routes he made catches on, and those were big steps. But he wasn't in on third down very often because pass protection reasons. Well, now it looks like he's got it figured out. He's able to run more of the route tree. He looks more comfortable with his hands, toe tapping on the sidelines at training camp. And then his pass protection has got a lot better. So now we're talking about a complete back. So now it's not just that these guys, that Elijah Mitchell has a huge advantage because he could do everything. Now they're on an even playing field. So now we have a legit battle at the running back position. And it's a two-man race. It's Jordan Mason, it's Elijah Mitchell. And both of them have unique skill sets that make them a little bit different than the other. If you look at the running pace and style of McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, and Jordan Mason, you're going to see a different pace and different style with all three backs, making it fun to have within your room. They've all accomplished the same goals. They all will find the right hole. They'll all get vertical when they're supposed to. They'll all catch the ball in the backfield, but they all look different and look more comfortable doing it in different ways. So it's a cool problem for the 49ers to have at the running back position. They are 3 strong, and that's how many guys you normally have active. But this and playing time is going to be important this season between Jordan Mason and Elijah Mitchell, because Elijah Mitchell's in a contract year. Jordan Mason's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of the year. Both of them have motivation for being on the field. For Elijah Mitchell, he's trying to prove not only can he still do what he did his rookie season as far as skills on the field, but that he can be a number 1 back and go get money on the open market. So we're going to have a real battle down the stretch here at training camp and through the preseason to see which one of these guys lock into that running back 2 role. Part of the reason it's important, Kyle Shanahan has alluded to the fact McCaffrey might be limited on some carries during the season, so that way they could limit the amount of touches he has during a game. That is hard to do during passing situations because a lot of times he's the check down. Sometimes you just have to go there. So it happens from taking carries away from him, and especially in that middle of the second quarter, the beginning of the third quarter into the early parts of the fourth, that's an avenue to get snaps and reps for Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell. But whoever's ahead on the depth chart is probably going to get more carries than the other. So this is a battle and a competition that's going to be fun to watch. Number one, it's going to push them to be the best possible players that they could be. Number two, the people that are going to benefit from this are the 49ers players that are around these two guys because they both have a lot of talent. So it's going to come down this stretch. I'm really excited about this battle and how good both of them are, because if Jordan Mason is officially challenging Elijah Mitchell for running back 2, that means Jordan Mason got better. And if Jordan Mason got better, he's going to push Elijah Mitchell to be better. If he pushes Elijah Mitchell to be better, whole 49ers running back room is better. I'm excited about this matchup at the running back position and the fact that it's a legit battle. And, you know, if you've been on the channel for a while, you know I haven't had this as a true battle because I just didn't know where Jordan Mason sat with the other attributes that he had to have at running back. But now he's got it figured out. Josh Dobbs and Brandon Allen are locked into a battle for the backup quarterback job. And why is it significant? Because there's no guarantees that Kyle Shanahan and Brian Griese are going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the active roster. The fact is, the loser might end up on the practice squad. Now, for somebody like Joshua Dobbs, I think he has the ability to maybe go land another job somewhere else. He started a lot of football games last year, and he proved that he can win a couple games here and there. For Brandon Allen, does he want to be on the practice squad? That's what Kyle Shanahan likes to do, use the roster spot for other positions. And I think we're getting far enough from 2022 now that Kyle Shanahan might be willing to go back to that. So you don't win quarterback 2, you might not be on the active roster. In fact, you might not have an opportunity to play in games. So it's going to be a battle. And Joshua Dobbs has had good moments and he's had bad moments. I think Brandon Allen has been more consistent out at training camp so far, but I think this is a legit battle. And we'll see what happens when we get into preseason and Josh Dobbs is able to run and create and use his legs, which is going to be so much different than what Brandon Allen does, where he's more locked in the pocket, trying to win from the pocket with timing and with accuracy. Josh Dobbs might be a little late on throws, but he also has the opportunity to get outside the pocket and create, use his legs to extend plays, use his legs to get players the ball on scramble drills. So there's a different factor and a different part of Josh Dobbs' game. And we know Kyle Shanahan wants him to be able to operate from the pocket and operate in the fact that he's able to get the ball out on time. That's something he's got to get better at. But those other dynamics are going to be important to this team because Kyle Shanahan likes those attributes in a quarterback that can extend plays and a quarterback that can make plays when plays break down. Those are huge for Kyle. So that one is still a big-time battle at training camp. Danny Gray and Ronnie Bell, and this one, we'll see what happens with Danny Gray's soft tissue injury. He had something happen at practice on Wednesday. He was dealing with a little bit of an injury. They were doing some squats and things on the side with the trainer. He was trying to stretch it out, do a little bit of light jogging and pushing off to see if he could make it happen. Now, it was a light practice on Wednesday, so the 49ers training staff might have just said, hey, Danny, let's go ahead. Let's go do some work inside. Let's try to get this thing right. We have a rest day on Thursday, and then maybe you can be back Friday. That's the hope, because Danny Gray's in the midst of a competition with Ronnie Bell for wide receiver 6. And I know that Trent Taylor and Chris Conley are in the mix as well. But part of the reason I'm putting it on Ronnie Bell and I'm putting it on Danny Gray is because Kyle Shanahan's recent comments where he talked about Trent Taylor is a type of player he likes to have on the practice squad. It makes you think that Matt Mayoko's comments when he joined me and Mark Adams on the Red and Bold show about Chris Conley being on the practice squad as well, and they don't really worry about making him on the 53 because they know they can get him on the practice squad. It makes you believe those veterans with more than 4 accrued seasons, you can get them on the practice squad and they can still be elevated and help your football team. That will allow you to keep one of these young players. Now, you can't keep all of them because Ricky Pearsall is wide receiver 4. Theoretically, Jacob Cowing, as long as he comes back from injury next week, is wide receiver 5. Your battle, Danny Gray, Ronnie Bell, and one of these guys could actually, I believe, pass Jacob Cowing just because they understand this offense. They've been a part of it more. Cowing might have to give it some time, especially with injury, but one of them is going to make it. And Gray's had himself a pretty good camp catching the football. He looks good on special teams. That's the avenue that I think right now he has a distinct advantage over Ronnie Bell. Doing good in the gunning practice when he's out there with gunners, he looks good. Kick return, he looks good as well. Ronnie Bell had his best day receiving punts yesterday, so that's good news for him. He actually had his best day of training camp yesterday with a few catches with a lot of players out. That's good news for him. That's why I'm keeping him in the mix with Danny Gray. But Gray's special teams ability right now is giving him an advantage, and he still has something Ronnie Bell doesn't, which is elite speed. And being able to break off some of the routes he has with catches underneath has been good for Gray. So that's a battle that's going to come down to the end. If Danny Gray is hurt, that could spell the end of him in San Francisco. So he's got to make sure this injury isn't significant. He needs to be on the field, or he's going to end up getting one of those moments where Kyle Shanahan speaks in the media and tells you better be at practice tomorrow. Or ask Jalen Hurd what happened when Kyle Shanahan did that. You know where Jalen Hurd was the next day? He was at practice. So that's a really true battle. Now let's talk about a couple tight end battles real quick. Is you got Eric Saubert, who came out into camp and has looked absolutely fantastic. He's looked the part. He blocks well. He's been making some key catches. Exactly what the 49ers were hoping they were getting when they signed him. And why not? He fits within the system. He's played with Houston last year. And so he has a clear understanding of this offense. And so his transition was really quick. The veteran who's been in the league since 2017, drafted in the 5th round, is the same round as George Kittle. They knew each other at the combine. So it's been an easy transition for him. But he's in a battle with the other veteran, Logan Thomas. And the reason I put him in a battle as a veteran is because the 49ers have some young tight ends I think they want to keep on the roster. They don't want to lose both. They might be willing to let go one, but not both. They're still the future at the position. Well, Logan Thomas and Eric Saubert are different completely when it comes to playing the position. Saubert's a more balanced tight end. He can block really well in the run game and then has some decent pass catching ability. Logan Thomas is the other end. He's really good at catching the football and can make plays down the seam, which I saw him do at practice. Looked really good in that category. Still learning the offense, but is a developing blocker. In a perfect world, if you didn't have the young pups, you would go Logan Thomas, Eric Saubert, and you wouldn't lose a day of sleep. But these guys are probably in a battle. Now, the question is, can the 49ers keep 3 on their active roster initially, tell Eric Saubert, hey, we are going to bring you back onto the active roster. We will go ahead and waive your Logan Thomas, and they go off, and then you bring them back. They did this with Tyler Kroft a couple years ago. And then what they do is they take one of the players and they move them to the IR, and then you got Eric Saubert, you got Logan Thomas, and one of the young guys. That could potentially be what the 49ers end up doing if the writing is on the wall. Right now, Saubert and Logan Thomas are still 2 of the better tight ends the 49ers have. Right now, Logan Thomas is just being status quo. There's no great plays. There's no bad plays. He's just being consistent. And we know consistency is the key, but consistency doesn't get people's attention outside of the coaching staff. So if you don't hear about Logan Thomas, that's what's going on. I saw some plays when I was there watching him that I thought he did a pretty good job. Do I think he's been great? No. Do I think he's done enough to get fans' attention or media members alike? No. He's just doing his job. He's learning. He's had some pretty good blocking reps. There's development that needs to happen still in this battle, but this one is going to play out on the field. There's a chance that both guys make the team. I don't think it'll be initially on the 53. I think one of them will make the initial 53 potentially, and the other one will come back because they might need to keep one of the young players unless they want to keep both. And that's the thing. You've got Cameron Latu and Braden Willis engaged in a battle of 2 young players. And I would say Willis right now is having the better training camp for sure. He's had a couple key catches. He blocks a little bit better. He's been playing some fullback role as well. So a little bit more versatility coming from Braden Willis. But Cameron Latu's had a couple days in a row where he's either made catches in the passing game or he's had some pretty good blocking reps. So the fact that he's doing that means we might start seeing Cameron Latu make more plays because he's more comfortable in this install. It's definitely vastly different than what we saw last year. Last year, Cameron Latu wasn't ready just from an aspect of understanding the system and what his job was compared to this year. This year, he understands it. Now he's got to go out and make plays, though. And that's the unfortunate thing is there's not going to be enough wow plays probably to get people's attention. Coaches, though, might notice consistency. So that one's a real battle. I think Braden Willis right now is ahead. I think Saubert's ahead of Logan Thomas initially. But both of those guys, if you think about it, are similar. More blockers who have upside in the receiving game. So the likelihood is the 49ers wouldn't keep those two guys. The Logan Thomas and Cameron Latu are still in the mix. And who knows? Like I said, maybe the 49ers figured out a way to keep Logan Thomas, Cameron Latu, Brady Willis, and Eric Saubert by maneuvering and getting somebody on the IR after the 53-man roster goes live, and then go ahead and bring back Saubert or Logan Thomas, who have the accrued seasons that they don't go through waivers. One of the ones that's definitely taken everyone by storm has been Dominic Pooney, because Pooney was a guy that everyone was hyped about. You know, if you watch the draft coverage, I was a huge fan of Dominic Pooney, and I thought that he was a real fit for the 49ers, and they went out and they got him, which is great. But I didn't think that Dominic Pooney had a shot to start at right guard this season, not with John Feliciano coming back, not with Chris Foerster talking about how good that Spencer Burford was, how talented he was. So I thought Pooney was going to be developing this year, and then next year stepping into the Aaron Banks left guard role, and they were going to feel comfortable the same way Banks had taken over for Laken Tomlinson a few years back. But injury has caused an opportunity for Dominic Pooney. Spencer Burford breaks his hand. John Feliciano is dealing with the knee. And next thing you know, Dominic Pooney's getting first-team reps and very valuable reps, where he's going against guys like Malik Collins and Javon Hargrave and dealing with blitz packages with some of the best players and one-on-ones with Nick Bosa. Real good reps against real good players. And he's holding up. He's doing the things that we saw him do in college and in the Senior Bowl, anchoring really well, not allowing a bull rush to beat him, lateral quickness to pick up these athletic defensive tackles, showing the intelligence to be able to pick up linebackers in the blitz game or stunts where you've got different defensive linemen coming and passing guys off. He's done a good job with it. I think that's the strength of his game, is pass protection. The question is going to be, how good can Dominic Pooney be in the run game? And if he can figure out the lines and he can get where he's supposed to get, there's a real shot for Dominic Pooney. The door was open with injury. And we know from a couple years back, Daniel Brunskill was hurt through training camp. And guess what? Opportunity allowed Spencer Burford to work into the starting lineup. He started games, and then he sort of rotated with Daniel Brunskill by series during the football game. So we'll see what happens with Pooney, but this is a huge opportunity for the 49ers. If Pooney shows he's better than the guys ahead of him, that means the 49ers improved at the position. But if not, at least he's getting a lot of reps that will prepare him for the season in case something happens. But he is in a battle with Spencer Burford and John Feliciano. And we know that Chris Foerster talked about the moment on Monday Night Football week 1. He doesn't know if that would be too big for a rookie. He knows that Spencer Burford and John Feliciano have performed when the lights have been the biggest. They've played a lot of primetime games. They played in a lot of playoff games. They played in a Super Bowl. So the moment's not going to be too big for them. So that's going to be figuring out what happens with Pooney. Super excited to see not only the rest of him practicing at training camp, but also the preseason games where he'll get a lot of reps at right guard. And we'll see what Dominic Pooney can do against NFL talent. But the door has now been opened, and he's a part of the competition. What was a competition between Burford, potentially, and Feliciano has become a three-way dance. And it's unfortunate that Feliciano's hurt and Burford's hurt. But I think that's stopping a battle at the center position between Jake Brendel and John Feliciano from proceeding. So that's going to be an interesting one. Eyes stay on Dominic Pooney. Another one that we got to watch is got to be Nick Zakelj versus Ben Bartch. And you know what? That was a thing. Like, a lot of people didn't think that that battle was a legitimate battle. I mean, Nick Zakelj was definitely put on the scrap heap by a lot of people. And, you know, it didn't look good last year. I mean, you watch Nick Zakelj, and he just didn't look comfortable. He didn't look strong. He didn't look fast. He looked like a player that wasn't ready for the NFL. He couldn't handle center snaps. And so it was understandable that guys were like, you know what? I don't think Nick Zakelj can do this. And then the 49ers grabbed Ben Bartch last year. And it's like, this is the literal version of Nick Zakelj that the 49ers were hoping. And Bartch was coming off an injury. They picked him up off Jacksonville's practice squad. But these two guys are so similar. Both of them play guard. They were originally tackles in college, so they have that ability. And both of them have been working on playing center. Last year, Nick Zakelj was so bad at center, they stopped giving him center reps, and he just played guard and left guard pretty much all throughout the preseason. and it wasn't good. And then he got hurt, and the 49ers put him on season-ending IR, meaning that he had lost his second season in the league and wasn't going to get better. Now, would he have made the team? I don't know. But now the 49ers have a decision to make with these two guys. And right now, Ben Barch is ahead of Nick Zakelj. But both guys are getting first-team reps at center. And then when you had the injury to Aaron Banks, Nick Zakelj got first-team reps at left guard. So Nick Zakelj is getting a full look from Chris Foerster and the coaching staff for the 49ers. They are giving him the opportunity to earn a shot, and injuries are providing that opportunity. So we've got a real battle between two 5-position players in Nick Zakelj and Ben Barch. Which one of them is going to come out on top? Zakelj's reps have gotten better at center. He had a very good practice yesterday. Could Nick Zakelj really make this team? I think he's going to push for it. And that versatility might give Barch and Zakelj a chance to make this football team. We've been talking about other players at other positions, like guys that they could keep at tackle, but maybe they want to keep guys that have versatility to play all 5 positions. It's interesting. So don't give up on the battle of Nick Zakelj versus Ben Barch yet. Both guys have been doing pretty good at practice. There still needs to be improvement. We still need to see it in the preseason. But they're not afterthoughts anymore. And I think a lot of people thought Barch was going to make the team. But if you would have said that Zakelj was having a pretty good training camp, I think people would have scoffed at it a little bit. What he is. So the depth of the 49ers interior offensive line, a little bit better than people thought. Now, one of the guys that's playing probably some of the best football, in training camp right now is Isaac Yedem. And we know Deommodore Lenoir may be having the best training camp out of anyone, but Isaac Yedem has looked really good. And when you see him on the field, the first thing that stands out, this is a big physical guy, bigger than you think that he is. But he plays with that length. He's able to use his length to his advantage, and he does it at a high level. So right now, Isaac Yedem is ascending, and he's being that guy. And right now, when he comes in, he's the third of the cornerbacks. He plays cornerback 3, and then you get Deommodore Lenoir moving into the nickel, Charvarius Ward playing outside, and that's a very good unit. But there is still a battle going on because of Renardo Green. Renardo Green has gotten snaps outside. He's gotten snaps inside. And even though right now you can tell that Isaac Yedem and that group together is better than when Renardo Green's in with Lenoir and Charvarius Ward, it's still a process. Green is going to figure this thing out. How quickly is he going to figure it out? Because if he starts playing nickel corner as good or better than Deommodore Lenoir, then you got to think Lenoir is still better than Yedem, so they're going to go with that rotation. So even though it's not a direct battle between Renardo Green and Isaac Yedem, Yedem has to play so good that the 49ers would rather have Lenoir in the nickel than Green playing so good that Lenoir can go back outside. So it's a unique circumstance. Both guys doing well. Green gets better every single day. That's what you want to see from a young player. That's what you want to see from a rookie, is that ability to just continue to battle and get better. And his battles right now with Jawan Jennings are becoming fantastic. They battle play in and play out. They talk trash, play in and play out. And that competitiveness is going to make both players so much better. Right now, Yedem is definitely ahead of the young kid. And that's going to be something to watch when we get into preseason. How much will Yedem play? How much will Green play? I think Green's going to play a lot. The other battle at the cornerback position to watch is Rock Ya-Sin versus Darrell Luter Jr. And Ambry Thomas is kind of hanging around there too, but Ya-Sin has had some very good days, and he's still a veteran that understands the looks and concepts that offenses throw against him. He's very good at stopping the run. He had no missed tackles last season, so very, very good job. We know that's an emphasis for the 49ers in the running game. Rock Ya-Sin can add that. But Darrell Luter Jr. has had some highlight plays where you see his athleticism and length on display. And Coach Sorensen talked about the fact that Darrell Luter Jr., when he's able to play with his length, is a lot better player. So that is still a battle going on towards the back end of the 49ers defensive back room. It should be interesting. Up front, you got Austin Bryant, an unlikely competitor in a battle against Robert Beal Jr. And this was supposed to be a foregone conclusion that Robert Beal Jr. was at least going to be in a battle for fourth spot, but everyone thought it was going to be with Drake Jackson. But of course, Drake Jackson had the patella injury, that surgery, that now Kyle Shanahan is going to hold him out of all of training camp. That means he's going to start the season on the PUP list. And so Drake Jackson's not going to be a part of this 49ers roster early on in this season. In fact, I don't know when he will be back. But Robert Beal Jr. in a battle with Austin Bryant. And if you don't know Austin Bryant, last year they brought him in from Detroit. And Austin Bryant had a season where he was in Detroit where he had 4.5 sacks. He used to play at Clemson, and he used to rush the passer pretty good. He looks like a power forward on the field, great build, very muscular, pretty good first step, some quickness. But it didn't translate as much as I think the 49ers were hoping last season. They were hoping that he was going to be able to really provide an edge presence with pass rush and a quick first step and a bend to get around the corner. He looked a little bit stiff. It didn't look like he played on his edges very well. And so he just didn't consistently put pressure. Plus, he did not do the best when it came to stopping the run on some occasions. He was good at times. So he's come back. He was on the practice squad off and on last year for the 49ers, was elevated for some games. And now, right now, he's getting reps over Robert Beal Jr. So we'll see what happens. And I think Beal Jr. Needs to overtake him to make this roster. And I believe he will, because I've seen some of the improvements from last year. But he's in a dogfight right now. Alex Barrett and Austin Bryant aren't going anywhere. They're putting an emphasis on beating out Beal. And here's the problem for Beal. If Robert Beal Jr. doesn't impress the 49ers through the first preseason or second preseason game, they might look to the free agent market and bring in a guy to come in and take that role, a veteran that they know has the ability. I mean, there's still guys out there that can make some plays out on the open market. Maybe the 49ers don't want to pay that, but adding a veteran to go with Yetur Gross-Matos might be the necessary evil they have to go with if they don't believe Robert Beal Jr. is ready to contribute. So he's got to prove it in that way. That way he can make sure he's a part of this team and able to contribute out on the field. So Robert Beal versus Austin Bryant is very interesting because it could impact whether the 49ers need to go sign a defensive end. I think they're comfortable with the depth as long as Beal Jr. is playing well. On the interior, Kalia Davis right now is head and shoulders above the other defensive tackles. And I'm talking about the defensive tackles in battle. The four guys up top, it's no surprise. It's Javon Hargrave, it's Malik Collins, it's Jordan Elliott, it's Kevin Givens. Those guys are a level up compared to the next set. Now, Kalia Davis has made light work of some of the backup offensive linemen for the 49ers. He looks a little bit better than guys like Evan Anderson, guys like Shaquille Brown, guys like T.Y. McGill. So I know that this was a big conversation coming into camp. Evan Anderson had definitely gotten a lot of attention. We were talking about Shaquille Brown, and there for a minute, like I thought that was going to be a real competition. Right now, it's not. Right now, Kalia Davis is winning that competition outright. The athleticism, the first step, the physicality is there. Well, let's see what happens when we get into preseason and people start trying to run the football down the 49ers' throats. Duo block, get those guys moving and find some creases for their running back. If Kalia Davis can hold his ground, this is going to be a done deal. But if he can't, and guys like Shaquille Brown or Evan Anderson can, then defensive tackle 5 might become a real competition. And I thought it was going to be coming in, but I just haven't seen enough from Anderson or Brown to make this a legitimate competition right now. So I've got Kalia Davis right now ahead, but I'm leaving the door open for those young players to step in and push him and potentially make the team. Now at linebacker, DFF has been getting some starting reps since returning from injury. And a lot of people are ready to see D. Winters. Well, guess what? D. Winters and Jalen Graham had their best practice yesterday. So they're going to be out there competing. And at some point, the 49ers aren't going to be able to ignore how good D. Winters is. I think they're making the young kid earn it. I think they're going to make him earn it in practice. They're going to make him earn it in the preseason. They're going to make him earn it out on the field, being able to talk and have communication with other players. But at some point, he's going to win that job. And we'll see. I mean, the 49ers may not want D. Winters playing Sam, but at some point, I think you just have to. I know he's going to be the backup Will, but let's get our 3 best linebackers on the field. And I don't think DFF is going to be able to hold off the likes of D. Winters or Jalen Graham at some point. Because even though DFF is a fine special teams player, and the 49ers definitely want him for special teams, when it comes to being a starting linebacker, he's not on the level of a guy like Oren Burks, who they had last season. Oren Burks was better than DFF in every category of playing linebacker on the field. So if the 49ers have DFF starting, they've taken a step back at linebacker. And we already know you're going to be without Drake Greenlaw, and Devondre Campbell's going to try to bridge that gap. Let's not have a hole at Sam linebacker that teams like Kansas City have taken advantage of. You look at the Super Bowl, they went right at Oren Burks and they took advantage of. They ran at him, they threw at him. We got to have a solid guy there. I think that would be the game plan of most teams facing the 49ers. They would look at their defense and say, "You know what? Let's keep them in their base 4-3. We'll run 21 personnel. We'll get them in that base 4-3, and then we'll take advantage of matchups between tight ends and linebacker, running back, and linebacker, and we'll run right at DFF." And I think that that's a weakness the 49ers can't afford to have, which means they need a guy like D. Winters or Jalen Graham to step into that role, and I think D. Winters is the one that's the most ready. So at some point, I expect D. Winters to step in and take over that job. Last year, I was all in on Oren Burks. I thought he was the best linebacker. That was not Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, and he was. I think D. Winters can be better than that, but he's going to have the opportunity to play Sam linebacker, and we'll see when the 49ers actually give him that chance to play those 25% of snaps with the base defense. And then the last one I want to talk about is George Odom and Malik Mustafa. George Odom is having a great training camp. He has 2 interceptions. He's been playing nice in the run game. He's been covering pretty well. When Coach Nick Sorensen was talking about Gio looks a lot better, he looks more comfortable within this defense. They are not wrong. He definitely does look better than he's ever looked. But Malik Mustafa has had some wow plays, some plays that you look and you're like, wow, if you can consistently make plays like that, you are a starter in this league. So I think right now you know what you're getting from from George Odom. You know what kind of player you're getting. What you don't know is how much consistency you're going to get from Mustafa. So if Mustafa can prove that those wild plays come while still playing consistent football throughout the remainder of training camp and then into the preseason, we may have a chance for Malik Mustafa to jump George Odom. Now, jumping George Odom doesn't exactly help you, though, if Talanoa Hufanga comes back and he's healthy. And that's exactly what we want at the position. We want Hufanga and we want Jair Brown starting at safety. That's the 49ers' best safety room. But I would love to have the safety in Malik Mustafa that would come in case Jair or Talanoa Hufanga need a break or one of them, heaven forbid, goes down, that we feel comfortable with. That's more dynamic than George Odom. I think that's the best case scenario, but Malik's going to have to go out there and prove it. So, I mean, these battles are just heating up. Block 2 is done. Block 3 coming Friday, Saturday, Sunday practices. It's going to be cool. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be watching. And so I'll give you guys some updates on Friday's practice, Saturday's practice, really get it broke down and the things that I see. And if you have any questions, some things you want me to observe, let me know in the comment section down below. What do you think about these battles? Who do you think is going to win? Let me know in the comment section down below. We are getting really close to 49ers training camp winding down and the 49ers kicking off the season. Now, of course, preseason's going to happen before that, and we're going to have the Tennessee Titans game coming up in just a little over a week. So 49ers football is rapidly approaching. I can't ask for more. Really exciting, and we have 49ers players battling and figuring this thing out. Just like always, please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. If you want to leave a comment or a like, that definitely goes to help the algorithm kick it out, and I always appreciate that. It just gives my content pushes it out there for more people to be able to see. If you know, all that stuff is great. If you're listening as audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe, please give it a 5-star rating. And like always, this episode brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers.